What's up, guys? Today we're going to do something different. We're going to start this Investing 101 series and understanding fundamental investing concepts so that you can make better informed decisions about your portfolio and how to approach your finances. Again, none of this is financial advice, purely educational only. So today we're going to start with inflation. What is inflation? Why does it happen? And why should we care? And so before further ado, let's get into it. So inflation in essence is basically just the phenomenon that all things become more and more expensive every year. So maybe you're asking, why is McDonald's this year so expensive compared to last year? Why is going out to the restaurant so much more expensive than it was 5 years ago? And the answer to all of that is because of inflation. Inflation is basically the reason why all of these raw services or goods go up every year in terms of price. And this happens primarily because we print more money. So if you are not aware, the government and all governments in the world actually just print their own currency. We used to have what is called, a gold-backed dollar, where it used to be backed by actual physical dollars. But ever since the gold standard was removed, nearly all of our money is just printed out of thin air, and its value is really just determined by the market. And now you might be asking, determined by the market, how does that work? And this is probably something I wish someone explained to me. How does printing more money make things more expensive, and how does this happen exactly? People always talk about the market as this esoteric knowledge machine that seems to know what all the prices are about. But it's actually pretty simple on how it happens. So let's pretend we have three market participants: Alice, Bob, and Charlie. And let's pretend that these three participants is the entire US economy, right? In this hypothetical toy example, let's give Alice and Bob $1 each. So Alice has $1, Bob has $1. So our total US economy has $2. And let's say us as the, Federal Reserve, we printed $2. We gave $1, to Alice and Bob each. So now they have $1. Charlie, on the other hand, is a producer. He has no money, but he has 2 oranges. And he wants to sell these oranges to make more money, right? So he, in turn, could buy other things in the market. Obviously, Charlie's only incentive is to make the most money he can as possible, right? So in this toy economy, let's say Alice wants an orange and Bob also wants an orange. Alice goes to Charlie and sees he has 2 oranges and he wants 2 oranges. So he says, hey, Charlie, I want to buy both oranges for $1. So each orange will be, I'll give you 50 cents per dollar. Charlie, wanting to make the most money he can as possible, starts to think, should he accept this offer? Should he give these 2 oranges for half a dollar each to Alice? But then Bob comes along and says, hey, wait a minute, I also want oranges. I don't want you to sell both of these oranges to Alice for half a dollar each. I'm also willing to buy an orange, and I also have $1. Charlie looks at both of them and realizes that they each have $1 and he has 2 oranges, and the most amount of money he can make is by pricing each orange at $1 and giving them 1 orange each and accepting $1 each, right? So here, in this perfectly toy example, the fact that Charlie just wanted to make the most amount of money had the market settle on a price for the oranges at $1, right? Initially, Charlie was wondering whether or not he should sell the oranges for half a dollar, but he would only make $1 if he sold both of them to Alice. Bob comes along, gives him another offer for $1, and he realizes he can actually make more money if he priced each orange at $1. Because now he would make $2, one from Alice and one from Bob. Now, if Charlie wanted to thought about making more money and priced each orange at $2, he would have made no money because neither Alice nor Bob has $2. So none of the market participants can even buy an orange, right? So in this story example, the prices of things in the market are just determined by what people are willing to pay for it and how each person can set a price that maximizes their own personal gain. And now you're probably wondering, how does this apply to the real world, right? Well, in the real world, all our items, our phones, our laptops, everything are just objects similar to the oranges. And everyone just has money similar to how Alice and Bob has money. We are all technically just bidding for all of these items. And then people or individuals that are selling these items just learn that they can either price it higher and make more money, and until it gets to the point where they can't price it higher without losing more customers. So the market just self-adjusts because people are just like, hey, here's my money, hey, here's my money. And they realize they can raise prices until people stop wanting the product. So this toy example actually perfectly illustrates the economy. The prices that we have are only set by the people's willingness to give money to them and how much money is in circulation. So this explains how prices are set. But how does this explain inflation? So, let's go to year two. Now, we're the government. We print more money, right? We print more money. This year, we gave $2 to Alice and $2 to Bob. So last year, they had $1. This year, we printed more money. They have now $2 each. Alice now goes to Charlie and looks at his two new oranges and says, hey, I have $2. Last year, I bought an orange for $1. Now I would like to buy two oranges for $1 each. Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe I'll sell it to you so I can make $2 again. But then Bob comes along and Bob says, wait a minute, I also want an orange. If you sell both of those oranges, I won't have any left. I'm also willing to pay $1 for these oranges. Charlie looks at them and says, wait a minute, if he pays $1 and you pay $1, who am I going to give the orange to? Bob looks back and says, you know what, I'll outbid Alice. I'll pay $2 for an orange. So now, Charlie looks at the oranges and it's like, so, are you willing to pay $2 for the orange as well, Alice? Alice looks and he realizes that, yeah, I mean, if that's the only way he can get the orange, and he can get the orange for $2. Exact same scenario, right? Exact same scenario. At the start, Alice wanted to buy both oranges for $1, similar to year one, where he offered to buy both oranges for half a dollar. Bob, another market participant, realizes that he'll run out of oranges if he doesn't make a better offer. So he offers to buy one for $2. In the previous situation, he offers to buy it for $1. And Charlie, wanting to make the most money, just prices the oranges in a way where he can maximize the amount of money that he can make. He prices it at $2 so that he can sell it to Bob, who outbid Alice for one of the orange. And now he has one orange left, and he'll say that it'll be $2, otherwise he won't give it to Alice. Alice will probably want the orange and pay $2 for it. So in this situation, it's the exact same bidding process. The only difference is that we printed more money, and this money is felt by Charlie because now more people are bidding more money with his two oranges that he has. And effectively, this is what inflation is. In the first year, the oranges were just $1 each. The oranges were $2 simply because we printed more money and we had the same exact amount of goods. And this is basically what's happening in our economy. When governments print more money, a lot of this money is distributed into the market. People suddenly have more money. Because I have more money, I want to buy more things. And different markets or different people selling stuff start to feel that more people want their items. So they raise prices because if they run out of items, then they can't sell anymore. So they realize they can keep raising prices until it reaches a saturation point, similar to how Bob, Alice, and Charlie were all interacting. So, how is this relevant to you? This means that every year, when people print more money, you actually lose purchasing power. So, in the situation that we had, for example, imagine we had a fourth market participant. And this fourth market participant didn't participate in the market. All he did in year one was save his dollar, right? On the first year, when he saved the dollar, he had the ability to buy an orange with that dollar. But on the second year, he couldn't buy an orange anymore with that same dollar because now there was more dollars in the market, so his dollar was worth less. He could no longer go to Charlie and buy an orange for $1 because effectively the oranges were $2 now. And this is what happens. When you save money, every year, inflation actually eats at it. What you could purchase today with your money isn't the same thing that you'll be able to purchase a year from now. So, what does this mean? Does this mean you should just kill all your savings, spend all your money so that you can maximize the amount of value you're making? No, that's not really the takeaway here. The takeaway here is that, yes, money does lose value over time, but you have to understand the risk of holding money and figure out ways how to navigate through life such that you know the consequences of saving money. So, for example, people should always have an emergency fund. Inflation right now is only like 4%, 5% on average. So, that means if you had $100 next year at the exact same date, you would lose 5% purchasing power. And so that's not necessarily a lot, right? It is something, but it's still relatively stable. However, if you had a huge medical accident and you needed money, you might need that cushion. So saving money is still important because it allows you to navigate through life's fluctuations in terms of your personal situation, which is usually less volatile than inflation. And just to illustrate this is actually a graph of the M2 money supply. This is basically how much money is circulating in the US economy. And as you can see, line just goes up. Every year, since 1959, probably even before when the dollar existed, every year we're just printing and printing more money. And all of this money goes into circulation every year. There's another graph that we see. This is year-on-year average. And you can see, for example, the black line is actually the M2 money supply, and the beige line is the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index. This basically tells you how much the prices of a basket of goods is increasing every year. And you can see most years it's positive, and even there are like huge spikes. Like in 2022, the CPI was 8% and the M2 money supply was at 9%, you know? So they are printing more money. Your money is getting devalued every year. So you need to understand that this is happening so you can be aware of the risks that you're taking. There are a lot of people who are scared of getting into the stock market or getting into index funds because they're scared of the volatility. But you know, everything has risks. Holding cash has risks, investing in the stock market has risks. What's important is for you to recognize what those risks are so that risk doesn't just happen to you. It is a consequence of your deliberate action to take them. If you're saving money and putting it in a savings account, you have to know, why are you putting money into the savings account? Know that the savings account is losing money, but that's fine, because if you're doing it for a specific purpose, like an emergency fund or other types of expenses or other types of funds, then that's okay, as long as you're aware of the opportunity costs that happen with all these different types of decisions. Yeah, so basically that's it. This is going to be the first episode on basically just inflation, why everything gets more expensive every year, and how do we navigate inflation. Yeah, next episode will probably look at stocks, why stock picking is literally the worst idea you could do, and why investing in the stock market is much lower risk over the long term than holding cash. In the short term, holding cash maybe is safer, but then in the long term, holding cash, as we see, is just has higher risks because of inflation. So yeah, if you guys like this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.